How you doing, everybody? Today we are taking a quick look at Jurassic World Rebirth. This was directed by Gareth Edwards and stars Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, and Jonathan Bailey. This takes place a few years after Jurassic World Dominion, and most of the dinosaurs that have spread around the world are not exactly thriving in Earth's modern climate. But despite most of the planet being too cold for them, a few species are still thriving near the equator. A pharmaceutical company is trying to get blood samples from 3 dinosaur species in particular, as they believe it might hold a cure for heart disease. And a representative of this company brings a scientist and a group of mercenaries led by Zora Bennett, played by ScarJo, to an island near the equator. This island just happens to house an old InGen facility that was experimenting with mutant dinosaurs, but I'm sure that won't be a problem. This is the 4th movie to bear the Jurassic World name and the 7th overall in the Jurassic Park franchise, and I suppose some might argue that the franchise has run its course by now. I would argue it ran its course after The Lost World. I will admit I did have some fun with this one, but it is very, very dumb. Which is true of a lot of movies in this franchise, really. I was a little confused in the beginning because it almost seemed like this movie was taking place in some alternate universe. Because apparently at some point they did successfully open several dinosaur theme parks, which seems to contradict the point of, well, every movie that has come before this one. But those dinosaurs started dying off because the Earth is too cold, although give it a few years, that may change. And public interest in the dinosaurs has gone downhill, which InGen tried to fix by sinning against nature. They were making some mutant dinosaurs, which I think was the plot of the first Jurassic World. Are we running out of ideas already? And pretty much every mutant dino falls in the what the hell were you thinking category. They made velociraptors that can fly. Why in God's name would you do that? These things just aren't deadly enough, and there's a small chance you can actually get away from them. We need to give them wings. One of the mutant dinosaurs is called Mutadon, which, you name the mutant dinosaur. Really? Again, running out of ideas? And there is one mutant dinosaur in particular that fits into the movie's climax, and it is called the D-Rex. They gave this dinosaur 2 extra big freaking gorilla arms and a huge This Island Earth-size head. Why? Because they could. And what was really weird, unless I somehow missed it, I don't think the movie ever actually says what the D in D-Rex stands for. I just assumed it stood for DAMN! But according to Wikipedia, it's Distortus. Distortus Rex. I never thought they would come up with a name dumber than Indominus Rex, but clearly I did not have enough faith in them, and that is on me. But as dumb as all of this is, it is fun to see people trying and often failing to survive in the dinosaurs' environment. And the visual effects, practical and digital, are very well done. There are plenty of those big, majestic moments where the characters are just like, oh my god, I'm standing in front of a dinosaur. Which, considering dinosaurs have been all over the world for the past few years, you'd think they'd be used to it by now, but I guess not. Nevertheless, the sequence where they encounter the Titanosaurus was pretty cool. It was one moment that reminded me of how awesome the original movie was. And it does have some intense action sequences, and some very silly action sequences as well. Several dinosaurs in this movie seemingly have the ability to teleport, like they will be over here, and then you blink, and suddenly they're over here. How does that happen? I don't know. And it's not just the mutant dinosaurs, the T-Rex can do it too. Even one of the human characters pulls it off, and this was kind of a problem with the last movie as well. No one involved in the making of the movie seems to know where anything is in relation to anything else, and frankly, they don't seem to care. And the human characters are kind of a mixed bag. Some of them are clearly just there to be dinosaur fodder and aren't meant to be well developed. But even the characters that are meant to survive at least most of the movie's runtime aren't always that great. There's a moment where the team collecting the blood samples runs into a family that was on vacation until they got shipwrecked by a dinosaur. I have no idea why they were sailing in dinosaur-infested waters, especially since the movie made it very clear that that area has been made a no-go zone by international law, and for good reason, because if you go in that area, you're gonna get ate by a fucking dinosaur. And that was one thing Zora's team was concerned about, because if they get caught by the authorities in that area, they're screwed. Apparently, the family had no such concerns. The family consists of a father, his 2 daughters, and his oldest daughter's boyfriend, and that boyfriend was an odd character. Sometimes he's a worthless sack of shit, other times he's a decent human being, and throughout the film I could not tell if I was supposed to care about this guy or hope he becomes raptor food. I get the feeling they were trying to make him complex, but really it just came across like they had no idea what to do with the character. The father even says several times, if I recall, that he doesn't understand what his daughter sees in the guy, and it doesn't seem like she really knows either, and I'm wondering, how did they end up together, and how are they close enough that she invited him on vacation? Most of the mercenaries are just kind of there, although I did like Mahershala Ali's character. But then I like Ali in most things. Rupert Friend plays the pharmaceutical corporate asshole, and he did a very good job of making me hate him. It was a good performance on his end. Sadly, I'm not sure I can say the same for ScarJo, and I like her in most things, but in this one, she was very difficult to read. The corporate douchebag is of course trying to make a shitload of money off of this miracle drug made from the dinosaur blood, and he's promising ScarJo's character a huge payday, and of course she's on board with that initially. But the scientist, who actually has a conscience, does not believe only the filthy rich should be able to afford the cure, so he wants to freely distribute it to everyone. And he tries to get Zora on his side, and for the life of me, I could not tell what she was thinking. The dialogue was telling me she was conflicted about whether she should help the scientist or take the massive payday and retire at the age of 40. But her performance told me nothing at all, and I don't know if that's her fault or the director's, but it just did not work. Overall, this is a very silly movie, which is pretty much what I expected, but I don't regret seeing it. It was a perfectly fine way to kill 2 hours, especially in an air-conditioned room on a hot day. If the last few entries in the series haven't completely put you off, I would say it's worth a matinee. Just don't expect it to make a whole lot of sense. And that's all I have to say about Jurassic World Rebirth. Till next time, take care.